Zandvoort, here in the Netherlands for rounds 13, 14 and 15 of the GB3 Championship. Piers prior, alongside me, Jon Jackson. We were here October last year and we said, it'd be nice coming next year because it'll be the summer and the weather will be nice. Is it nice?
It's the Zandvoort Summer Trophy. Of course the weather's nice, he says, having just had a very, very wet qualifying session.
Yeah, so we've been here a couple of days, obviously, with testing, and we've seen all kinds of conditions. There were some dry running, there's been some wet running as well. Some drivers really impressing in the dry, like Jared Wilburski, second quickest, I think, in the last session yesterday, and certainly fastest in a couple of sessions as well. And then when it got wet, didn't really do so well there. But we've seen drivers like John Bennett, who's on pole position for the first two races this weekend, do really well and really get to grips with the wet. As a driver, some drivers will, I guess, adapt to these conditions better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really tricky track. It's a lot of undulation, really technical. We spoke to some of the drivers who you'll hear from shortly, and they were saying in the dry especially, it's very physical around here. But in the wet, because of all the undulation, you've got rivers that run across the circuit, the grip is hard to find. And those more experienced drivers generally sort of rise to the top of the field, and John Bennett showed that here with a double pole position.
He has indeed. A really, really good qualifying session for John, as I say. We'll hear from him very, very soon. We're going to hear from some of the other drivers as well. Coming up, we're going to see the hottest new livery on the grid. Not the new car, the car's been there the whole time, but I'm going to be honest, when you're watching this live stream, you're not going to miss Pat Hudson-Reuter's car. The JHR development driver has got this new wrap on it, and it's been described as Miami blue.
Yeah,
describe it as that?
It's very Miami. It's sort of pastel blue with some yellow flashes. You'll hear more about that very shortly.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's first of all have a quick word with our championship leader, Louis Sharp, driving with Rodin. Only a few points in it at the moment, but Piers caught up with Louis earlier on while he was bucketing it down with rain, so they went inside a very nice Rodin truck.
Championship leader Louis Sharp, probably coming off the back of Hungary. You're pretty happy with how things went, because it at one point looked like things could have been swinging the other way. Just talk to us about Hungary from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, Hungary started off pretty tough. I think at the start of the weekend, if I was told I was going to be leading out at the end of it, I'd be pretty happy. Obviously, we lost the championship lead in race 3 at Spa with the DNF, so I was pretty keen to get it back. And after qualifying, I was a bit disappointed, but no, we made a few changes overnight for the next day. We actually found a lot of speed, so ended up coming away with a win at Hungary and getting back in the lead. So no, overall it could have been a lot better the weekend, but also could have been a lot worse. So I think to be back in the front, I mean, it's close. There's only 2 points between it, but to be back at the front, it's where I want to be. So yeah, pretty happy with that.
Absolutely, and definitely one of the first laps of the season. We very much enjoyed that in the commentary box. But you mentioned close. This weekend we're in Zandvoort for the Summer Trophy. It's been very close in all the practice sessions from what I've seen in both wet and dry conditions. Just had qualifying, very close again, but another solid qualifying for yourself. Just sum it up from your perspective again.
Yes, we were P3 in quali, double P3, so I mean, I can't complain too much. Obviously, I want to be P1. We were quite fast in practice in the dry, and then it rained yesterday for the last session, and we struggled a little bit, and we did struggle a little bit again this morning. So I think to be P3, it's probably not the worst result, but there's definitely a bit of time we need to find. The front two are a good chunk quicker, so we do need to try closing on them. But I'm confident in the team, I'm confident in myself, and I know that in the racing we're going to be able to fight for a win.
We were chatting to Pat Hudson-Reuter for JHR, and he was mentioning that it's a very physical round here, especially in the dry conditions. And I've heard that you've actually had a bit of a niggle this weekend as well.
Yeah, I've hurt my arm a little bit. I don't know why. I noticed it a couple of days ago. It's got a little bit numb, and then after being in the car on Thursday and Friday, it got a little bit sore. But I think it's all good now. I didn't notice it this morning, but no, it probably is the most physical track on the calendar. But I think I haven't really noticed it too much. For me, I think my fitness at the moment is pretty good. So for me, it's been okay. But I think for a lot of drivers, they probably will be struggling. So no, I think for my arm to be back to normal, I think it's definitely good, because it's not really what you want to be focusing on when you're going out and racing. So no, I'm pretty happy that it's not too sore.
Yeah. Weather conditions, of course, tricky so far. Qualifying was wet. We've had some wet practice sessions. Looks like race one's probably going to be wet as well. It's going to make racing interesting. What do you think is going to happen?
To be completely honest, I don't know. I think it's been very hard to predict races so far this year. As you know, anything can happen. I think the main thing is to get off the line well and secure and stay in P3. I think the podium is obviously definitely our aim, but obviously we want to be pushing on for a win. I think, like I said, there is a bit of speed we need to find, I think, to be able to make that happen. But no, I'm like I said before, I'm really confident. I think it's definitely a possibility, and I'll be giving it everything to try and make it happen.
Maybe a repeat of the first lap from Hungary?
hopefully. I think that was quite a good lap one, so I wouldn't be too bothered if that happened again.
Yeah. Well, you're P3 this time, so it's easy to get P1, right?
In theory, yes. In theory, I got 2 less overtakes to make, so no, hopefully I can get it done.
Louis, good luck in the races this weekend. We look forward to seeing how you get on.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's your championship leader, Louis Sharp, with Rodin. Piers chatting to him a little bit earlier on. Watched, actually, by 2 of his very early supporters, people who have come over, Lucy and Brian, from New Zealand all the way here to the Netherlands to watch Louis race this weekend. We'll hopefully catch up with them a little bit later, because I think they were hoping for better weather. And that takes us on to the weather, because it's around about 15 degrees here. But as you can see from mine and Piers' hair blowing all over the place, the thing about Zandvoort is it's very, very windy because we're so close to the beach.
Yeah, just you said that nearly got blown over by a gust there. But yeah, sea is literally there,
yeah.
And the wind is a big factor around this Zandvoort circuit. Of course, you can probably see our hair blowing around, but with the circuit being so undulating up and down, some corners are hidden from the wind, other corners are very, very exposed, and these GB3 cars with their big wings, a lot of downforce, very affected by the wind. We've spoken about it a couple of times this year already, but here it's more than anywhere probably, especially going in, I think it's turn 6 or 7, the quick right-hander downhill, very exposed to the wind, and the wind will then move around the car from the front to the rear. If you get a gust to the wrong place, it could, cause the car to have a moment. So potentially some squirrely moments for the drivers out there. But they've had a few days of testing now, so hopefully they will have got their head around it.
When we're close to the sea, I would imagine that the wind is coming off the sea. And as a driver, I guess you're going into corners trusting that the wind is coming from a certain direction.
Yeah.
But then if a wind starts blowing sideways, like a crosswind, that must be quite disconcerting for a driver, and it'll affect the car massively.
Absolutely, especially in such a high commitment circuit as Zandvoort with lots of blind corners, quite high speed. These GB3 cars have a lot of grip. Apparently the tarmac's quite grippy as well, and the drivers have been saying it's very physical. You really need to trust the car, and if the wind is not the same every lap, it's really hard to trust how much grip you're going to have going into a corner.
Well, we heard from Louis Sharp there talking about the pain he's had in his arm. Louis Sharp, one of the drivers who posts a lot of his fitness workouts. Obviously, all the drivers are incredibly fit because of how physical you have to be to drive these cars. Something else we have to take into consideration here, it's very similar to the Indy 500 because of all the banking. I mean, it's something that we've seen on the F1 over the years. I mean, we can see in T1 behind us there, the banking is pretty steep there, but actually when you get to, I think it's turn 3, it has certainly had a lot of cars going off yesterday in practice when it was a little bit wet out there. That is something that you have to consider as a driver. Is that something that you'd be keen on, a bit of banking to help you along?
Yeah, I mean, I've never driven Zandvoort, unfortunately. I would love to do it because it really is a fun circuit from what I hear from the drivers. I've, of course, driven it on the simulator as well, but last corner's banked, turn 1's banked, turn 3's banked, and I said turn 6 going down the hill is off camber, so a lot of different camber changes for the drivers to work with or work against, depending on if you like it or not, but it's what makes the circuit so enjoyable. And actually probably a lot of the corners more banked than the Indianapolis circuit, because that's not actually that steep, whereas turn 3 is literally like looking up a hill. Yeah,
for those of you watching, if you're not aware of turn 3, that is the Daniel Ricciardo turn, if you remember the race last year in F1. We've got to talk about some of the drivers that have impressed us so far this weekend, and actually we're going to hear from one of them in just a second, and that is Hugo Schwarzer, the German driver, qualifying P6. Very good qualification for him, and he seems to have been one of the drivers that's really mastered driving in the wet.
Yeah, good pronunciation, of course, of his German surname there, but Hugo's joined the championship this year. German driver, speaks very good English, as you'll hear in a moment, but in wet conditions, it just seems like this weekend he's just switched it up another level. I think he was second, only 700ths off one of the off the top driver, and I think it was practice on Friday when it was wet, and then a very good qualifying from him. So yeah, he's found his groove.
He really, really has. And we caught up with him earlier on at the Elite Motorsports truck, and he wasn't feeling too good about the German performance, I guess you'd call it. It was a performance of sorts at the Euros.
Schwarzer here in the Elite Motorsport truck. It's much drier in here than it is outside, but you don't mind the wet conditions this weekend. Good qualifying session for yourself.
Yeah, really good qualifying session. P6, best quali yet, and I'm really happy. Second ever session in the wet here around Zandvoort. So yeah, really pleased.
What's the catalyst for you having this amazing pace in the wet conditions?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's better for car control. And yeah, in the wet conditions, I feel the car. I know what to do with the car, and yeah, it's all working out.
And it's not an easy circuit in the wet conditions either. We've got different banked corners, blind corners, the spray. The racing in the wet conditions is probably going to be a little bit interesting this weekend. What can you do from 6th place?
I'm looking forward to the race. Alton Park was wet as well, and I made up some good positions there. So yeah, anything is possible in this race around this track as well. So looking forward to it. Keep it clean, no big mistakes. Keep it on track. Yeah.
And it's as a German yourself, there's been a lot of Germans finishing 6th recently. Nico Hulkenberg, a couple of 6th places. Are you hoping to go a little bit one better, maybe?
For sure, yeah. Awesome from Nico Hulkenberg, of course. Not so awesome for the German national team, but we'll just push that away. So yeah, definitely gonna make up some positions.
And then in the dry, of course, it looks like it potentially could dry out for some Sunday's races. Are you still confident in those conditions?
For sure, yeah. We had some good practice sessions. Top 10s in all of the dry practice sessions, starting from session 3 on Thursday. So yeah, confident in the rain, confident in the dry, looking forward to it.
And it seems like all 3 of you elite motorsport drivers, Mackenzie, Cresswell and Jared Roberski, have been really quick in all the practice sessions. Unfortunately, a bit of a difficult qualifying session actually for Jared. But the elite motorsport team are really getting to grips with things this weekend. Have you been here testing, or have you just hit the ground running this weekend?
Just hit the ground running here. No testing before, but yeah, it's working out really well for us. I think we've been improving from the first race weekend, and it's just been going better and better. So yeah, all the guys have been putting so much, guys and girls, been putting so much work into it, and yeah, it's starting to pay off.
And you're clearly pushing each other as well, all 3 of you.
We are, definitely.
Brilliant. Well, we'll see how you get on, both yourself, Hugo, and also the rest of the team, and good luck for this weekend.
Thank you very much.
I think Hugo Schwarzer has just brought us some sun. Oh, by the way, alles Gute zum Geburtstag.
Danke.
Dankeschön, bitteschön. It's Piers' birthday today, by the way. Happy 30 what?
27th birthday.
27th birthday.
Getting old.
Not as old as me. Hugo Schwarzer there with Elite Motorsports. Be good to see what he could do from 6th on the grid. Some surprising changes then in the last 2 minutes while we were watching Hugo Schwarzer there. The sun has kind of come out a little bit. It's a lot brighter. Still very windy, and the sort of bit of rain that was in the air has disappeared. And I've noticed this morning that that's happened quite a lot. It must be quite annoying as a driver, sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going out in 10 minutes time.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be on slicks, I'm sure, but I mean, you never know when the heavens are going to open here. I don't even know. I mean, we're hearing that there's actually a dry line on circuit, but with those sort of pocketed showers that are coming in literally before the interview, we're getting rained on, and now the sun's out, and it could be tricky for the drivers if they're on a dry line, fully committed to a corner, one lap, and then the next lap they come around and it's raining. It's really hard to pick that balance between being on the limit of grip and just over it, because also around here, it's an old school circuit. No tarmac runoff at pretty much any of the corners. Some of the corners it's just a barrier, and we've seen some incidents over the years. So hopefully we'll have a nice clean race, but margins are very fine around this circuit. Yeah, they are indeed. I was just thinking about the championship battle. We've heard from Louis Sharp already. At the end of this weekend, we then have, 3 rounds left, Silverstone, Donington and Brands Hatch. If you're a driver in that championship battle, are you worried about where you are? As long as you're in the mix, is that okay, or do you want to be kind of at the top of this rate? I think the drivers, especially fighting for the championship, so I'll put all 3 high-tech drivers in there, Louis Sharp and maybe outside chances for John Bennett, and, for example. They want to get every single point because they know this year has been so tight in terms of times in qualifying and practice, but also in terms of the points in the races. It's changed a few times, and we'd heard from Louis Sharp, he said at the start of the Hungary weekend after quali, he was thinking, I could be leaving this weekend with a pretty big deficit if just making sure we don't get run over by one of the old touring cars going out. But he said he could be leaving this weekend with a big deficit, and then managed to turn it on its head. A couple of mechanical issues for the high-tech drivers, an epic race through the field in that race where he came from 5th to win the race. So, it shows how quickly things can change, but they'll be pushing for every single point, that's for sure. Yeah, incidentally, if you look at the wins as well, Louis Sharp's had 2 victories this year, whereas the 2 guys behind, Timek Kaharczyk and Will McIntyre, both the high-tech Pulse 8 drivers, they both had 3 victories as well. So it really does show that consistency is really, really important here, because he's had more consistent results. And that is important when you're a driver. So from here on out, would you as a driver maybe think, okay, every weekend I need to get about this many points? Is that how a driver would think? What's kind of, say you were Will McIntyre, for example, in 3rd place, knowing that if Louis Sharp has a good weekend here, he could accelerate into the distance a little bit. What would he be sort of hoping for a championship run? The drivers don't tend to go into a weekend thinking, I want to score this many points or I want to do this. Of course, they want to win race 1 and race 2 and then have a good race in race 3. That's what John Bennett is, we're going to catch up with in a bit, is, he was talking about. We picked up John Bennett ahead of time, the most we've ever done it. Anyway. It better be a good interview, Piers. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yes, points. So the drivers basically will try and get, as qualifying done, they always mention it, and in single-seater racing, overtaking is difficult, so qualifying is crucial to a good weekend. So they'll be concentrating qualifying, then they'll see where they are after qualifying,
and then just keeping it clean, because it's, especially if you're in a championship battle and you're racing against the drivers who are going to be in the top 5, 6, 7 positions every single race, it's your bad weekends that will decide the championship, not your good ones.
Now look, we've heard from a Kiwi, we've already heard from a German as well, so we're going to hear from an Australian now, Patrick Herzenreuter. He's got a brand new car, which he told Piers all about earlier, and just as a little heads up, it's one you can't miss.
In the JHR garage once again, we've got Pat Herzenreuter. Pat, you're sporting a new hat and also a very, very striking livery, different to your normal livery. We thought it'd be worth coming over and having a chat with you. But before we do, just talk to us about last weekend out in Hungary and how that went for you.
Yeah, I mean, Hungary was a great weekend, my best one yet. Moved up during races, scored some good points, and then moved up to the top 10 in the championship, which was nice. So hopefully can, continue that this weekend and score more points.
Absolutely, a strong weekend from yourself, and of course we caught up with you before a couple of the races there now. But yeah, again, the reason we're over here, bright turquoise car, some light yellow flashes. Just talk to us about why the change in livery.
Yeah, it's the collaboration with Hard Rock Cocktails and then Fly Pop as well. And basically it's meant to look like one of their cocktails in a can. So I really like it. I think it's really easy to spot. And all my friends back in Australia love it on the live stream because it's not just grey with the grey weather. So they can definitely spot it pretty well.
Yeah, plenty of grey cars in the GB3 Championship. Of course, JHR Developments, your team running the predominantly grey livery. But really stands out on the circuit. Thank you so much for doing that because it makes our job as commentators so much easier to pick it out. But of course, to go racing, we need to find ways of getting on the circuit. Of course, once you're actually on track, that's the easy bit. Of course, you got the collaboration with Hard Rock. How did it come about? What's the idea? And how do they get involved?
Yeah, I've got quite a few people around me that help me with that sort of stuff. I just stick to the driving, and then I'm less involved in sort of the paperwork and things like that. But I just focus on brake shapes and turning this thing in front of me. But yeah, hopefully we can keep this partnership going, and I really like the car, so I think you guys do as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully it comes back in exactly the same condition it left. But let's look ahead to this weekend now. It's going to stand out in what is difficult weather conditions so far. Might brighten up a little bit for Sunday. It's a unique challenge, the Zandvoort circuit, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different to last time I came back here. I can turn the steering wheel this time because I'm a bit stronger. The weather's not too different, but I think it's a great track, suits the cars really well, and I think I was 10th in qualifying and then P6 for race 2 and then P3 for race 3. So another decent qualifying. Didn't quite put it together in that last lap, but happy to be starting 10th for this afternoon.
Well, you touched on the fact that you can turn the wheel this time. You've bulked up a little bit because you joined us for a guest round last year at Zandvoort, the last time we came here. Is it useful having that extra year's experience in these cars around this circuit?
I think it's just so different because I'm developed so much more as a driver. I think getting in this car it's more like a racetrack than a roller coaster this time. But yeah, I just really enjoy it, and the experience always good. But then we got plenty of testing on Thursday and Friday, which is nice as well.
Yeah. And you said you've bulked up a bit and you can turn the steering wheel. Of course, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes in that area too.
Yeah, lots of physical training. This is definitely the most physical track. I mean, even though we do all our gym work and everything, you get to the 3 right-handers in a row. You get to the last one, it's like, well, the neck was fine. But then we'll see it after this 25-minute race in race 3. So,
what parts of the body do you find that struggle?
Probably arms. Neck is all right because you just train that as much as you can, and then arms, you think you're training, and then you rock up here, and it's like the banking, and then all the high-speed, high-load corners. So that's arms, chest. They're the main things you focus on as a racing driver.
Amazing. Well, great to see a new livery on the circuit. Great to see you back on the grid, of course, and hopefully you have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.
Patrick Herzenreuter there with his very, very vibrant car. I have to say, we were watching and testing, and I was thinking, okay, I've heard about this new livery. I wonder what it looks like. I wonder if I'll spot. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's like the brightest thing coming down the track. We have a lot of grey cars in this series this year, and I think starting 10th on the grid, we're not going to be able to miss him at all, are we? It must help you out.
Oh, absolutely brilliant when a driver has a distinct livery for themselves, because it means that's Patrick Herzenreuter there. But it's cool collaboration he's got going on there. Did you manage to try any of the Hard Rock cocktails?
Yeah, so they had a little launch party yesterday, and we mentioned Richard Randall quite a lot from MSV, the man that basically coordinates this whole championship. He's always never on camera, always behind the sings. It was his birthday yesterday, so it's your birthday today, so we thought last night we'd have a little taste of the cocktails. I didn't actually get to taste one in the end, but they look very nice, and I think it's great that a brand like Hard Rock are coming on board with young drivers and supporting them, and certainly giving them a car that we're going to spot from an absolute mile off. We have to talk about James Headley. We always talk about James Headley when he's on the grid, and he is back on the grid, which wasn't what we were expecting this year. Back in the road in car for Ugo Chukwu, who's not here this weekend, starting 4th as well. And, you know, James drove here last year as well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's disappointing, isn't it, to not have him properly in the car, but it's great for him to be in the car.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Of course,
okay.
he's not signed up for a full season with a team. I don't know he'll feel complete this season, but he's jumped around a couple of teams. He's effectively the GB3 super sub because we know he can perform well, and he showed that out last time in Budapest with some great results, actually being the highest qualifying road-in driver. So that gave Louis Sharp a little kick up the bum, and then of course Louis Sharp then did some great races, so clearly it worked. But also James Headley has had some other opportunities this year. We touched on it at Hungary
Monaco
as well.
with FIA F3,
Yeah,
very impressive to jump in that car. I know the result maybe wasn't what he wanted, but to jump in that car with
no practice.
I mean, he told us last time out, didn't he? No practice, got word of it, had to literally pack his bag, go straight to the airport, and yeah, I mean, amazing
he said,
to do that.
Didn't he say it was like if he'd have got the call 2 hours later, it wouldn't have been possible? So
exactly,
crazy. But no, good to see him back on the grid. Hopefully we'll see him for many more rounds to come, but who knows what'll happen. But he's always a character and doesn't mind getting involved, so we'll see some good racing from him, no doubt.
Of course we will. Mackenzie Creswell's another driver we need to talk about, another British driver, starting 7th on the grid. Mackenzie had a really good run into the end of last season.
Very good.
But, you know, he was kind of hoping for a more consistent performance, you know, throughout this season, and it's maybe not quite worked out for him. But a good weekend here again could get him up the championship standings.
Well, you say that. You know, towards the end of last year, he did have an undoubtedly excellent run. I can't remember if it was the last 3 or 4 rounds he was the highest scoring driver or second highest scoring driver in the last 3 race events.
Yeah.
And he's not shone this year. You know, he's not taken multiple victories, but he's always been there or thereabouts. Very, very consistent inside the top 10 pretty much every race, most of which inside the top 5, a few podiums. So he's still there or thereabouts. You know, if he has an end of last year like he had, an end of the season like he had last year,
yes,
he's an outside shot for a potential championship, if not at the very least a podium position at the end of the season.
He's a big fan of American sports as well. Grew up in the US watching IndyCar. He's going to love the banking here, so maybe he'll feel like he's driving one of the ovals. The weather, Piers, has just started again. We started talking maybe 5 minutes ago about the sun. That's gone. It's now grey again. It's greyer than the car you'll see on pole position,
Yeah.
John Bennett's car with JHR Developments, and the wind's picked up again. I mean, it's really quite sort of confusing, I would say.
Yeah, it is. And also, you mentioned earlier, it's tricky for the drivers, but it's not just the drivers, it's the teams as well, because the teams will look at the circuit and go, okay, dry line, dry setup, but then if it sprinkles with rain, you might want to some teams might sort of hedge their bets and think maybe the circuit's not fully rubbered in. Maybe we'll make the car a bit more compliant and easier for the drivers to drive if it does get a little bit wetter and a little bit more slippery, because generally in these GB3 cars, if it's completely dry, you run the car very stiff, very aggressive, so that you can really be precise with it and use a lot of the high grip that these GB3 cars have. But conversely, if there's less grip, wet conditions, cold, or it's still slightly damp, you want the car to be a bit softer so the driver has a bit more mechanical grip, a bit more reaction time to react to the car, and if things get a bit damp, then a full dry setup can be very, very sketchy. So yeah, the teams have got a lot more to think about than the drivers. The drivers effectively, they get in the car they're given by the team, and then they drive to the conditions they've got, and hopefully they do a good job.
We joked actually with Hugo Schwarzer early on about how the fact you can kind of push things to the limit. Got a great time in to start off with, and then pushed it a little bit too far and had a little bit of an off into the Ricardo turn, as I'm calling it now. And I mean, that's what you have to do when you're a GB3 driver. You have to push things to the limit.
Absolutely.
And see where you can find some time. We're going to hear from Jon Bennett in just a second. In fact, let's just hear from Jon Bennett now, because Jon Bennett is starting on pole position. So he'll be on pole for this race and the first race tomorrow as well. So let's hear what happened when Piers caught up with him earlier.
Jon Bennett, double pole position. We're here at the Zandvoort Summer Trophy, but not exactly summer weather, but you're making the best of the bad conditions.
Yeah, exactly. Not quite the weather we were hoping for, but yeah, now I'm completely fine with it raining after getting double pole in quali. It looks like it'll be wet the rest of the day. Not sure about tomorrow, but I think pace has been strong in both conditions, so we're feeling confident.
Yeah, it has been strong in both conditions, up in the top 5 in pretty much every session so far, both in wet and dry. It's been very, very close in all conditions this weekend in terms of the grid, so I assume getting double pole is extra important around this circuit.
Yeah, exactly. Zandvoort's always quite tough to overtake, and quality is always the most important part of the weekend. So now it's just about clean start off the line, lead out of T1, and then I think we should be good to lead the rest of the race. So.
I was watching qualifying, and it looked like there were some differing lines out on circuit. Just talk to us about how you managed to find those extra few tenths to get the double pole.
Yeah. Well, we had quite limited running in the wet, so every lap in quali was just exploring, seeing what was grippy, and yeah, I think obviously me and Timek, found a couple places to gain some time because I think we're about half a second up on P3. So yeah, just every lap trying a different line, seeing what works, and yeah, I think we nailed it. So.
And let's look ahead to the weekend. You mentioned looking wet for today, Saturday's races, and then of course Sunday may be dry. Pace has been decent, but will that change how the pace sort of goes in the races? Would you prefer it to be wetter or drier?
I don't really mind, to be honest. In the dry we've been up there. We were P1 to start on Thursday. Around about P3, P4. So I think no matter what, our pace should be strong enough to lead. And with dirty air behind, it's always hard to overtake. So I think the main thing is lead out of T1 and then yeah, see what goes.
Don't mind the conditions, love that confidence. And then looking ahead to the weekend, what is your outlook for the weekend? What do you want to come away with this weekend with?
Well, it has to be a double win, really, starting from double pole and then the reverse grid, see what I can do. But it's really about maximising the points. I've put myself in a very good position from quali, but the points are from the races, and it's all about closing that championship gap, moving ahead, and yeah, just maximise the weekend.
Jon, thanks for chatting to us. Good luck in the races.
Cheers, thanks.
And we can see the number 11 JHR Developments car of Jon Bennett there. Jon just getting ready. You better spot him in a sea of grey cars. He's got the orange camera on the top there. His teammate Josh Irfan on the left-hand side of him has got the bright yellow, which will help you on commentary. And it's been good for Jon. He starts the championship this weekend 4th, 31 points away from the lead. Starting on pole position, if he converted those into a couple of race wins, he'd be well up there now.
Well, you just heard from him, didn't we? He said, I asked him, what do you want from this weekend? He said, double win, simple, make it easy. Yep. And then, of course, he'll be starting 12th in the race 3 for the top 12 reverse grid. And I suppose it will be a case of just cheap and out of trouble for him. But
making up places as well.
Yeah, he generally is a pretty good starter, Jon Bennett. Of course, 3rd year in the championship this season, so he's done a fair few race starts in these cars.
I think as a driver here at Zandvoort, you probably want to be away from turn 3 before most of the other cars, right? Because that's where, when we bring live coverage in a minute, that's where you're going to watch things, because that's going to get a little bit hairy, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting corner, turn 3. You go through turn 1, which is banked, then you got the quick flick left-right for turn 2, and the turn 3, which is the very banked corner. Because it's so banked, the drivers find that it's quicker actually to run right to the outside of the circuit, ignore the inside, but that puts them very, very close to the barrier. Only probably 1.5 car widths past the white line is the barrier, and therefore you've only got 1.5 car widths of margin, whereas most corners you have all the circuit. So that's why we see a fair few incidents there, and if the spits of rain keep falling like they are right now, then that could make it very interesting. And also, something to note, I'm seeing a lot of stickered slick tyres, and sticker slicks are, of course, when they're basically brand new, not even run a
straight
single
out of the box. Do they come in a box? Or?
I don't know, John. But anyway, they've got brand new tyres, and what with the air not being very warm and the track having been wet, it'll actually be quite crucial to get those brand new slick tyres up to working temperature as quickly as possible on the 2 laps they'll have before we go green.
Something else that Lewis McGlade, our commentator, will probably clarify on commentary, but he mentioned it just before we came out here and braved the wind. He's in a nice airtight container where he's nice and warm while we stand here in the gale force winds.
It's not airtight, he can breathe.
Yeah, there is we cracked a window earlier on. He was telling us about High-Tech Pulsate being on the front row of the grid again with Timek Kaharczyk this weekend to start with, and that being quite a record for them. I mean, it's something like 8 races in a row where they've had a car on the front row of the grid. Yeah. I mean, what is it about High-Tech Pulsate cars? I mean, we always know they're a very strong team, but they've got a really strong driver lineup this year.
It's just a perfect storm, really. I think High-Tech Pulsate, very experienced team in motorsport generally, in single-seaters, of course, going right the way up to Formula 2. But also experienced in this championship and other championships at this level. And they've got 3 excellent drivers this season. So they're driving very well. The team are clearly firing on all cylinders. They're getting the car set up well. And when you've got 3 drivers all pretty much within a tenth or so every session, even if one of them makes a mistake, you've still got 2 opportunities for a front row start. And we've heard from the other teams as well. I think High-Tech Pulsate, Rodin as well, really stepped things up just to another level of performance this year, and it's impressive to see, to be honest. We've seen it in Formula 1 last year with Max Verstappen and Red Bull, and High-Tech going through a bit of a purple patch, although saying that, currently not leading the Drivers' Championship, so it shows how competitive it still is.
Really is competitive. I was going to say, don't fall over these wet tyres behind, but it might be a good time to sort of have a look at the wet tyres here. These are the GB3 wet tyres that we can see outside the garage here, the JHR. How wet does it have to get, Piers, for them to put these wet tyres on? Obviously, it takes a long time to come into the pits. It's not like a Formula One pit stop. It's not like 2 seconds.
No.
You know, they're going to be jacked up. They're going to be, you know, they haven't got a whole team of people to do it. There's a lot of time that's taken up there. Kind of what level of rain, if you can describe rainfall?
Yeah.
Be Michael Fish for a second.
Yeah, okay.
How much rain do you need to put these tyres?
So my mum has a phrase about this, and it's quite good. It's basically when it's joined up rain. So when the rain falls on the ground and it's just spots, we're probably okay with slicks because it'll probably dry out. As soon as those spots join up so that the whole surface has got water on it, the slicks will switch off, they'll cool down, you've got no grip, and that's when you'll transfer over to these groove wet tyres where basically the wet tyres, not only can they disperse water if there is water on the surface, but because they have these blocks, they can retain some heat, they move around more, which keeps the heat in the tyre, and they're designed to work at a lower operating temperature as well. The GB3 slick tyres, very, very, very grippy when they're fully warm up to temperature in the dry conditions, but as soon as they lose temperature, it's like driving on ice.
Hey, well, we look forward to it. Let's take a look at the track then here at Zandvoort. Lewis McGlade will talk you through our track guide.
So, Circuit Zandvoort then, of course, opened back in 1948. It's undergone a lot of changes in that time, most notably, of course, in 1999, when it became the layout that we currently see here today. Of course, upgrades back in 2020 added significant banking to the Hugenholzbock and, of course, back to Arie Luyendyk as well. It's a great overtaking opportunity around the likes of turn 9 and 10. Shivlak, if you are brave, you can make something stick round there. Turn 10 being the hairpin to take you back down this slight drop into the Hans Ernst Bock, and of course around this slight hairpin down to the penultimate corner and then out through the Arie Luyendyk curve. Around the 4.2, nearly 4.3 kilometres of racing, there is plenty of opportunities to make a move if the tricky conditions do prevail. Of course, with it being out on the dunes, it is open to the elements, and it's one of the most notable features of this circuit around its 2.6 miles. Not too much when it comes down to elevation gained or lost around the entirety of the circuit. Of course, we do see the odd drop off and pick up various points over the 14 turns, most notably the rise up the hill towards the Arie Luyendyk Bock, of course, where it then drops back down towards the Masters kink, where things get very fast and very, very brave indeed. Only 7 to 8 metres of elevation around the circuit, so not too much realistically, but again, a few overtaking opportunities around the high to average speed circuit Zandvoort.
Yeah, really, really cool track here, Piers. Something a little bit different, isn't it, than what we're used to. We've already mentioned all the different features, the banking, the wind, the beach. There's sometimes sand gets blown across here. A lot of building work going on. Does that distract drivers? No, probably not. I imagine they're very much focused on what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, the car's going to go out in just a second, but when you're a driver right now, you're sat here and you've had the whole week of testing and you're ready to go. How do you just keep yourself calm in that moment, just before you go out?
It's just about getting in the zone, concentrating on what you're about to do. I was hoping we might grab away with Noah Ping, but I think it sounds like the cars are firing up, so we'll bail out of that. But the drivers right now are literally just focusing on some key things for the race. So getting the tyres warmed up, with a warm-up procedure, they'll have specific procedures, you know, how much they're weaving, using the brakes and the throttle to get as much temperature in the tyres. Then it will be about the start procedure. A few burnouts before they get to the grid to get a bit of extra rear tyre temperature, getting the clutch bite point in their brain, stop on the grid, getting a good launch away, and then they'll have a plan probably about whether they're going to go inside or outside, or figure it out as they go for turn 1, 2 and 3, and then get dialed into the race. So it's all about just keeping your mind occupied on one specific set of tasks.
Noah Ping, as you sort of mentioned him, Noah Ping is just here to our right. He starts 13th on the grid. His teammate Nikita Johnson just behind is 11th, with Sean Rashid in the far distance there, the final Arden by VRD by Arden car, starting 15th. Piers, you're going to need to run an incredibly long way to the commentary box, so I'm going to let you run away. And as we watch the cars go out here, we're going to say let's go racing for the first time here at Zandvoort this weekend. It's round 13 of the GB3 Championship.
It's the final step then of our European road trip, which began, of course, the season at Alton Park and then Silverstone before we began this venture overseas. Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which saw some excellent racing. Of course, the Hungaroring a few weeks ago, and now we head to Zandvoort. Of course, we raced here for the first time last year, expecting more drama. We return to the UK after this with Silverstone before we prepare our final leg of the season at Donington Park at Brands Hatch. The championship is poised to be extremely tight all the way up to that run at Brands Hatch, but it could be a weekend like this which could see the turning point. Just 2 points separate the top two in the championship as we venture to Circuit Zandvoort for the second time in GB3's history. What was an exciting round last year when things got very dramatic. It is a tricky circuit at the best of times, especially as it's exposed to the conditions, courtesy of being out on the dunes. Being opened back in 1948, lots of overtaking opportunities to run down into Tarzan, of course down into the 9 and 10 double hairpin section. You've got this run into the chicane hairpin section at Hand Spot, of course, before that run out through the final corner at the Ari Lyndike curve, and then back down towards Tarzan. It is a very tricky circuit at the best of times. Not much elevation around the 2.6 miles and plenty of opportunities for drivers to be caught out by such a fast and flowing circuit. Not much elevation around the 14 turns around the circuit. Of course, it's just around about 8 meters, but those dips and drops all the way around give you plenty of opportunities to eye up something special should you be brave. Of course, we've already seen the conditions here at Circuit Zandvoort. We know it's tricky, and that's exactly what the drivers are going to have to deal with. You can see that out on the circuit, though. It is fairly dry. We raced here back in 2023. It was very wet indeed. Now things are looking a little bit more like we can take some slick tyres. Of course, it'll be Lewis McGlade, myself. Piers will be in the commentary booth in a few moments' time, and we'll talk you through the racing. Like I said before, though, it is just 2 points separating the top two in the championship. Louis Sharp on 233 points, Will McIntyre on 231, and I've already seen some people out there supporting Timothy Kuharczyk, of course, who's in third position in the championship, 212 points, so he's a fair few back, 21 points arrears of Louis Sharp. John Bennett sits fourth in the championship, but of course has the double pole position already a hand out of James Headley's car. I saw there from fifth position. I'm sure he's just letting the marshals know something there, but I will say these cars do have an onboard starter, so if he stalled the car he can restart the car himself, and he'll be well aware of that. I remember Headley having a few dramas here last year. I remember John Bennett having a few dramas here last year as well, but will he be able to make the most of this double pole position? They'll roll their way around the start and around that formation up. You can see on the left hand side that brand new livery for Pat Huizenroder, of course, the green and yellow, it's more like it's Miami blue is what it's listed as, but it's green and yellow, green and gold, almost Australian colours, so there is that. As some of the marshals rejoin the racetrack, they head over to the car in fourth position. That is, I was going to say that's Will McIntyre, actually, not James Headley. I'm not 100% sure as to what they're seeing there, but they're straight over to Will McIntyre. I did think, James Headley and Will McIntyre the wrong way round. James Headley is supposed to be starting from fourth position, which he has now moved into, and Will McIntyre had moved his way into fourth position. How odd is that? I wonder if there's any sort of a penalty or repercussion on that one. There's some dramas in the background as well, as I think that's Ed Pearson trying to get himself in line. Very messy here on the grid. There's more in the background. Aditya Kulkarni is being moved back over to the other side of the grid. I'm not 100% sure as to how the drivers have quite got that one wrong, but either way, they will send their way around in about a minute's time. They could maybe have done that at the end of the formation lap, but I think it's probably best to do it here so then the drivers know where they're starting from. Piers Pryor is in the commentary booth now. That is very bizarre.
Yeah, I just caught the back end of that, Lewis. Looks like drivers getting confused which side's odds and which side's even, which is easily done.
Did you ever do that?
I didn't, but it is easily done.
Nice. We'll hold you to that. I don't know. It seems like something that you would do. They'll roll their way then down into turn one. Of course, John Bennett in control, Timothy Kuharczyk directly behind, and the grid is properly set. I was being a little bit confused as to where James Headley was, so I'm pretty sure he was slated to start from fourth position, but I've seen him starting from fifth. So it's very confusing indeed. We'll take a look though at the starting grid for round 13 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Of course, we have now completed the first half of the season. It is Jon Bennett on pole position once again, his second time this year, alongside Timo Kuharczyk on his 7th consecutive front row qualified start. Absolutely crazy. Louis Sharp, championship leader, will start from 3rd position alongside James Headley, of course, jumping in for this round. Then we'll move down to the field. We've got Will McIntyre, who's up there in the championship, but a little bit down in qualifying, and to be starting further down in the next race as well. Hugo Schwarzer on his best start in GB3, starting from 6th position. Mackenzie Cresswell in 7th for Elite, with Gerard Shee, who had a fantastic round pace-wise. The Hungaroring realistically could have won a couple of races. Unfortunately, it didn't go quite his way with a couple of technical issues. Arthur Rojon in 9th position, with Patrick Huitzenroder in that brand new livery, the Hard Rock livery JHR Developments car, will be starting from 10th. Looking like he's got some decent pace this weekend and starts in a better position tomorrow morning. Nikita Johnson in 11th position, with Josh Irvin inside the top 12, which will be reversed tomorrow afternoon. Noah Ping, couple of struggles in qualifying, will start from 13th position. Same with Colin Queen in 14th, missing out that reverse grid drop, of course, for the 3rd race of the weekend. Sean Rashid and Sebastian Murray in 15th and 16th position on the grid. Still a couple more rows to go, with Jared Oberski, pretty awful qualifying, unfortunately, for the South African driver, down in 17th position, with Flynn Jack starting from 18th position. The final 2 positions on the grid, we'll see Ed Pearson and Aditya Kulkarni as they have swapped their way around. Would there be any repercussions for those drivers being out of position before the formation lap had started?
No, I don't believe so, but that looks like there's some rain on the lens, Lewis.
Yes, it does. It has certainly darkened a lot. I'm looking out there. There is some dark clouds out of our commentary booth window, but realistically speaking, I think it should be okay, but I'm not 100% sure. Piers, I mean, you had a little listen. Was that Jon Bennett? Yeah, Jon Bennett was off on the. He'd gone off on the right-hand side of our shot, on the left. I'm very confused.
Oh yeah, he's trying. He's just trying to make his way back through. Really
maybe it is
chaotic.
At the final corner.
Chaos even before the race has started. It looks like he's been trying to warm the tyres on the banking and lost it somehow. So Jon Bennett, it's actually it's like a flat spot, I think, on one of the rear tyres there. So he's done well to actually not stall the car. But he's made his way back onto pole position. I don't know. There's more likely to be a repercussion for that than there are for the moving out of position on the formation lap, because that's just a pure mistake, and the guys have obviously rectified that. They know where they're starting now. But Jon Bennett hopefully will regain his calm and will be able to lead away from the start of this race.
Well, here we go then. The first half of the season is complete. Our European road trip is poised to come to a close here at Circuit Zandvoort. It is Jon Bennett on pole position as he leads our way down to the first corner. Instantly covers off Timo Kuharczyk, of course, the number 11 there of Jon Bennett. Looking down the inside as well as Louis Sharp, but he's having to fend off his teammate James Headley in the number 2, who's gone straight around the outside. Look at that from Kuharczyk, trying to get the high side going round the first corner. But Jon Bennett, the number 11 JHR Developments driver, is able to hang on. Louis Sharp with a big look down the inside as they work their way into turn 2, but straight around the outside, taking the high line. And can he get one past Timo Kuharczyk? No, he cannot.
Brilliant racing for 2nd, 3rd and 4th position between Kuharczyk and the number 7 there that we're looking at, of champion Gillian Louis Sharp, who's looking around the outside of turn 6. He's not going to get that move done. More drops of rain on the lens at this corner, so drivers will be tippy-toeing around here, but absolutely no lack of commitment. We've got the 2 elite cars of Schwarzer and Mackenzie Cresswell on the back of shot doing battle, but it is our leader Jon Bennett who leads away after what looked like a little bit of a slow first phase of the start. Lewis, I'll let you talk through this battle at the back.
Yeah, lock up there from Hugo Schwarzer as well, as he just got onto the brakes coming down to turn 9. It's actually opened up for Mackenzie Cresswell, who's the 2nd of those yellow cars towards the back end of the top 10 that was just trying to take the defensive line. You could always tell it's Hugo Schwarzer because of the orange highlights, and he's under pressure from the white highlighted driver, which is his teammate Jon Bennett, squiggling the brakes a little bit. There is Mackenzie Cresswell straight around the outside, the number 16 of his teammate. That is a fantastic move from Mackenzie Cresswell and Hugo Schwarzer as the 2 remain top side. Look at how wet this is.
Lewis, this is properly wet. They really need to be careful in this final sector. You can see, skidding off, and also the number 23 of Gerard Shee has got rear tyre. Is it 23?
I will say, Patrick, it was 23, which is Gerard Shee. You're absolutely right. Patrick Huitzenroder's got a broken front wing as well in the Hard Rock Cafe.
And so does.
Look at this.
And so does, I think it was Josh Irfan had front wing damage. We see the 2 Rodin teammates going side by side. The right-hand side is shot, the number 2 of Headley going on the outside.
third position.
Third position, sorry,
yeah,
yes,
Louis
Lewis.
Sharp absolutely in third position here, just trying to hang on from James Headley at the moment. The experience of Headley, but the pace and consistency of Louis Sharp so far in 2023. Of course, he did win back in Alton Park when we did struggle with conditions quite a lot this season, but he did win that very first race of the season. You can see, whoa, there's a bit of slide there as well as Ed Pearson's into the pit. This is a crazy race.
Wow, this is where the drivers earn, effectively, or prove their feel in these conditions, because it's wet in some places, dry in others. They'll have to judge the grip before they get there. Look how wet it is in this middle part of the circuit. Actual spray coming off the slick tyres. The drivers are going to have to be so careful, and who knows, those drivers who have pitted for wets potentially might be able to get out on the lead lap and make some moves, but it's John Bennett at the front of the field who's romping away with this clear air, but the battle for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh is still raging on.
Yeah, it's very close indeed. Like you say, it's John Bennett leading from Kuharczyk, from Louis Sharp, from James Headley, from Will McIntyre, Mackenzie Cresswell, Hugo Schwarzer, Ping Huitzenroder and Colin Queen inside the top 10. So fantastic start from the Fortec driver, but expectations are that we need to see a lot of these drivers coming to the pit lane. But look at this, it's slick, this is perfectly dry here.
Yeah, but the last lap, this was the wettest part of the circuit. Lewis, it's these tiny little pockets of heavy rain that are really playing with the drivers, because the turn before we were just looking at was dry, and then this last corner, which is normally easily flat out in dry conditions, on slick tyres, this will be sketchy, Lewis. The wall is right there.
They are staying out at the moment, so they're remaining out on the racetrack. That's Mackenzie Cresswell defending in the background, the number 16 Mackenzie Cresswell, the right hand side of the shot, that silver car, that is a 21 of Will McIntyre getting to the outside, going into Tarzan. A lot of banking here, you can go around the outside if you're brave. Will McIntyre might go in a little bit too deep though. Mackenzie Cresswell with the up and under will hold the position as they work out of the first corner. That is for fifth position as they work their way in. Big squeeze there coming in, and Mackenzie Cresswell will hang on. Yeah, fifth place indeed. Mackenzie Cresswell, that was very brave. What a pinch.
Lewis, this is ridiculous. Last lap we came through here, there was tyre marks and spray from the water on the circuit. This lap it's completely dry, but the drivers are still going at it, not giving any caution, but that's of course what they're designed to do. They're just out there to race as hard as they can. It was very wet in this section of the lap last time out, still a little bit damp. You can see the spray coming off the tyres, but the order is actually largely unchanged. It is Bennett who's pulled out a 3.2 second gap at the front of the field, so clearly feeling good in his car at the moment. We've had a change for third position there, Lewis.
Yeah, indeed. I think there was Louis Sharp and of course his teammate James Headley going side by side. I think that's Louis Sharp going out wide. Going to see it is James Headley has worked his way through Louis Sharp, who's the second of those black and white cars, the number 7. James Headley's got the green highlights. Of course, Mackenzie Cresswell's going back side by side with Mackenzie Cresswell's trying to get back past Will McIntyre as they work their way down into the Hans Ernst Bock, and Will McIntyre will hang on to fifth position at the moment. So Mackenzie Cresswell dropping back, and look who's joining the fight, Noah Ping. Great stuff.
That's a brilliant race from Noah Ping. He sat 14th, I think, was it on the road? 14th, Lewis? Was it 13th?
14th.
Yeah, brilliant to work his way up well inside the top 10 from Ping, now in 7th position, so up 7 places, which is very unusual. But now our championship leader, the number 7 is Sharp in the Rodin car, defending the inside to Tarzan as the 21 of McIntyre looks around the outside. He tried it last lap on Mackenzie Cresswell, wasn't successful that time, is so far successful on Louis Sharp, so close.
Oh wow, that was an excellent move from Will McIntyre, but perfect space being given from Louis Sharp. We saw that in a move between John Bennett and Louis Sharp back in Alton Park as they went through the island bend. Just perfect space being given in really tricky conditions as well. Excellent driving from Louis Sharp, but he's on a one-way trip down the order at the moment as Will McIntyre has got his way up in the 4th position. Look at Mackenzie Cresswell in that yellow Elite Motorsports car joining the fight as well, trying to find his way through, but there's not too many opportunities around here. Yeah, sure, when you go through Masters you've got turn 9 and 10, but those are really tricky, and look at how slippery and slidey Mackenzie Cresswell was.
Yeah, it's a bit damp at this part of the circuit, and it seems like at one point Louis Sharp was the fastest of this sort of second group, or group battling for second place. He was challenging and pushing on for second place, and now he's gone backwards, overtaken by his teammate Headley and now McIntyre, and under pressure from Cresswell, who's in the yellow with white highlighted Elite Motorsport car. Now actually Cresswell's looking around the outside.
Yeah, he's going to try and commit as they work their way down to the Hans Ernst Box. A little bit of contact between the pair of them, and I think that might have been Louis Sharp just squeezing just a touch as Mackenzie Cresswell's going to work his way past as they work their way up towards the penultimate corner. Mackenzie Cresswell trying to hold Louis Sharp in that number 7 car over to the right-hand side, straight around the outside. Noah Ping's gone off the road as well in that Arden VRD, so he's going to rejoin. VRD raced by Arden, that's fine. He's going to rejoin the race circuit there, but that was a brave touch to go around the outside of the penultimate turn like that from Mackenzie Cresswell.
Yeah, it looks like it's still damp front there's now Hugo Schwarzer in that number 33 yellow with orange highlighted Elite Motorsports cars, looking around the outside of our championship leader, the number 7 of Louis Sharp. Can't get it done, trying to take a leaf out of Will McIntyre's books, but this time Sharp was wise to it. But we saw in that second last corner, Lewis, where Noah Ping went off, it seems a bit like that was actually a bit damper than the lap previously, because they all had a bit of a moment in the middle of the corner, and it caught out Sharp, which is why he lost that position to Cresswell, and it also caught out Ping, who unfortunately up 7 places, back down now into 10th place. So he's still up 4, I suppose. So still a good drive from himself, but he'll be kicking himself for that small mistake. But also a very good drive from the Vortec car, the red and white
Colin
car
Queen,
there,
yeah.
is Colin Queen, because he qualified in 13th, 15th?
It was 14th position. Yeah, so Noah Ping started 13th. It was
that's
14th.
So yeah,
for
good
Colin
drive.
Queen.
They kind of followed each other through, but Queen is now the biggest mover, well inside the top 10 in 8th position from a tricky qualifying. Actually, good drive from him. Lewis, you're pointing at something.
Fastest lap came in on the previous one by Timik Kuharczyk, and the fastest first sector on this one. Big lock-up we're hearing here as we head down into the Hans Ernst box. So there's been a little bit of over-pushing from a couple of these drivers. The gap for the race lead is around 3 seconds. It's remaining around 3 seconds, but I do think Kuharczyk's got some decent pace for the final portion of this race. So expect some of those gaps to work their way down. The order for the top 10 at the moment. John Bennett continues to lead by 3 seconds. You can see him there. That is a car going a lap down of Ed Pearson on the left-hand side of your screen, as here comes a move. So it's Kuharczyk, then Headley, but it might be Kuharczyk and then McIntyre as he gets the outside. Big lock-up on the front right, but I think Headley might have been a little bit too deep. No, McIntyre's gone in too deep.
Someone else.
There's another one who's gone off
that
as
was
well.
Mackenzie Cresswell, I believe. I saw a yellow car. Yes, it is Mackenzie Cresswell. It's the yellow car with the white highlights. That was quick, Lewis. I managed to catch up. Another lock-up. It sounds like it's getting wetter again, because we're seeing lock-ups, we're seeing drivers running wide, as now we see, is that Ping looking up the inside of Ping?
I think it is Noah Ping trying to get past.
Recovering, yeah, it's Noah Ping trying to get back up those positions that he lost. McIntyre's just ahead of Ping now, so McIntyre's gone from 4th position down into... That's Sean Rashid.
Yeah, what? How's Sean Rashid inside the top 10?
Where did he start?
Good man, Sean Rashid did start from 15th, so fair enough. It's not that crazy, but I mean, he's shown some really good pace. Got a yellow flag out on the circuit at the final corner as well.
Oh no!
Hoysenroder.
Oh, he's trying to reverse out of there. Unfortunately, that's not going to work. He's beached in the gravel, but Hoysenroder, that's the new Hard Rock Cocktails livery, and it is a safety car deployed. But great drive from Sean Rashid to go up from 15th into the top 10 now, 9th position, so up a 6th places. Sean Rashid, this time last year, he had an absolutely torrid weekend. I think it was potentially one of the worst weekends from any driver last season. I think he either... Did he finish any of the races?
He did. He
did not start the first race.
20th
and a 6th in the reverse grid, but he had a really tough time last time out. We were here a year ago. Changed teams since then. He's buoyed by the Arden by VRD team, and disappointing for Pat Hoysenroder. Great looking car, easy to spot, but unfortunately even easier to spot when it's stationary in the gravel. So unfortunately for him, he will be going no further in this race, but good to see that he is physically okay, even if the car cannot continue in this one. No major damage by the looks of it, Lewis, so we will see him out again in race 2, I'm absolutely sure of that. And the safety car is just going to try and pick up our leading driver. John Bennett's going to be disappointed to have had his lead eroded.
Mackenzie Cresswell was just... Oh, it's because finishing the lap, and now he's dropping down. Yeah, no, it's fine. So he'd already dropped down those positions after the incident. It's fine, don't worry, I was panicking.
Making me panic.
I was panicking there, that's fine. You're absolutely right. I'll walk you through the order now that things have calmed down,
let's just take a breath.
We're about halfway through the race. This will most likely be a timed race. There's 9 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in this one. It will most likely end up being a timed race. It is John Bennett leading. Of course, like you say, that 3-second lead that he had has been eroded now, and the fastest driver, realistically, on the grid at the moment is Timik Kuharczyk, who's in 2nd position, James Headley in 3rd, Louis Sharp, Hugo Schwarzer, Colin Queen. Will McIntyre drop back to 7th position despite fighting for 3rd position there before that safety car had come out. Sean Rashid up in 8th position, who did finish 7th back in, I think it was Spa in the 2nd race. Mackenzie Cresswell in 9th, Noah Ping in 10th, with Nikita Johnson, great drive from him, Jared Oberski in 12th position, Flynn Jack, Sebastian Murray, Adichie Kulkarni, Gerard Shee, Arthur Rojon, Irfan, Pearson, and Hoysenroder, of course, no longer in the race. Who's on the wet tyres, I wonder?
Pearson's on wet tyres, but it's just gone a lap down. But I was just noting, I've seen on the race controller currently noting an incident between the 17 and the 10. 17 is Nikita Johnson. Number 10 is that driver we saw out, Patrick Hoysenroder. So
2 plus 2.
2 plus 2. There's been some sort of altercation there. We didn't see it on the circuit, but potentially something gone on there. We'll, of course, keep you posted. Keep an eye on the GB-3.net website, which is bottom right of your screen right now, if you want to keep up to date with all of the the results from this race and also any post-race amendments, shall we say, from this one.
The reason why I was asking as to whether Ed Pearson was on wet tyres or not, because I wonder if there's any other drivers like Erfan, Rojon, Shears that are on wet tyres. Because if the safety car's coming out, if it is quite wet out there and it's getting slightly wetter, obviously these slick tyres are losing temperature now. Are the wet tyres easier to effectively restart and reignite, especially if it's a little bit damp out there?
Yes, but my eyes looking at the circuit now and the pace that the drivers were going around the circuit, even when there was the wet patches, the slick tyre is still the tyre to be on.
Right.
It's hard when it's damp in certain corners, and we've seen a few incidents in this race, a lot more mistakes in this race than we've seen pretty much at any point this season due to the changeable conditions. But yes, of course, if it is wetter, then the wet tyres, you can get up to temperature a lot more quickly. But if they're not the right tyre to be on, they're not the right tyre to be on, unfortunately, Lewis, and it looks pretty dry out there. Hopefully this is the penultimate safety car lap, and we'll be able to go at the end of next lap, because it looks like the Marshall team here at Zandvoort are doing a good job at retrieving Patrick Hoytsenroder's car. And there's I thought that was there was an awning blowing around in the background of the shot, but it's just a van driving, Lewis.
Goodness me, I'm getting you panicked about Mackenzie Cresswell, you're getting me panicked about random awnings.
We're on edge in here. Well, Lewis, you can't blame us for such a chaotic and action-packed race so far. We actually did well to go 7 laps without a safety car.
Is this a good birthday present?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, the GB3 Championship and drivers. I've been very much enjoying this so far. Let's have a great second half of the race as well.
Yes, indeed. Of course, safety car remaining out on the circuit, so we'll see that one return in. And once it does, it will be like I said, it will become a timed race where we'll probably have 4 laps.
4 minutes, so probably 4 laps. You're right, yeah.
It should be. Well, I think once we get back round, it 3 minutes at the moment under the safety car? It'll actually be 3 laps because we've got 6 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in this race.
Yeah,
by the time we get
2.5 minute lap.
Yeah, it'll be 3 laps.
3 laps, so that's enough time for some more drama on circuit. Hopefully we just have some good overtaking and racing. Hopefully no more drama, because we know that sometimes safety cars can breed safety cars. The biggest fan of this safety car period will be Timet Kuharczyk in second place, because Jon Bennett had pretty much checked out the front of the field, not put a foot wrong. He had a little bit of a I say slow, it wasn't the perfect launch away from the line, just did enough to stay ahead of Kuharczyk and cut across his nose, defended into turn 1, and then because the rest of the whole field basically were battling over second place, it allowed Bennett about a second gap at the middle of the first lap, and then he just kept putting his foot down and judging the conditions perfectly, because he pulled an almost 4-second gap, which in a dry race in GB3 Championship is almost unheard of.
In a reverse grid race, it happens. In a like I say, in a standard grid race, it just doesn't happen. Safety car has just been confirmed as being in this lap, so we'll have 3 laps of racing before the checkered flag will be shown to the drivers, and to the first race of the weekend will be over again. This is an interesting way to start the second half of the season, and like I say, it's going to be a tricky one. So, like I say, safety car coming in. What's your mindset right now? Because you've got cold tyres, it's a cold track, it's windy, it's wet, it's tricky.
You summed that up, Lewis. That's it. The drivers will just be thinking, right, get the tyres as warm as I can and stay close to the driver ahead, because it's one of those things as a driver coach. One of the most frustrating things as a driver coach is watching your driver leave 10 car lengths to the driver in front after a safety car restart, because how hard do you have to work to get this close to the driver in front under racing conditions? Very hard. Well, when it's gifted to you like this, you'll see that Timet Kuharczyk and James Headley in second and third will be right under they should be right under the rear wing, effectively, of our leader, Jon Bennett. And Jon Bennett's only job is to try and catch them out and get a bit of a gap if he can, so that he can not leave himself vulnerable into turn 1 on the first lap, and he can use some of that pace that he showed was so strong in the first half of the race. I expect Jon Bennett to be going almost any second now. It looks like he's already gone.
He's gone. He is absolutely cleared off into the distance. So Jon Bennett will lead down into the penultimate corner and then out through the final one. He's already built a comfortable gap. James Headley is going to be closing his way in. The safety car boards are out, but that's because they're ready to come in now. Green flag's back in the air, so they're allowed to overtake now. Jon Bennett will continue to lead here at Zandvoort, but look at the train behind. So you've got Jon Bennett, you've got Kuharczyk, you've got Headley. That red and white car ahead of all of that is Ed Pearson trying to get out of the way, but he's got Louis Sharp down the inside of him. Hugo Schwarzer trying to get to the outside, and he's opened up the door for Queen to come through, and so that'll be the move for Queen to try and sneak one through on the inside of Hugo Schwarzer. Ed Pearson's just trying to get out of the way.
Yeah, he needs to get out of the way here, but it's so hard to get out of the way because he's effectively, there's nowhere you can go. The circuit is so narrow in places. He'll probably, yes, you can see on the left hand side a shot there, but no moves in terms of positions that I can see so far into the top 10, but very, very close. It was actually the worst restart was our championship leader by Louis Sharp, who's dropped almost couple of second or a second and a half off his teammate in third place.
But part of that will be because he had Ed Pearson directly ahead of him.
Yes, of course. Sorry, my mistake.
So
Yes.
that'll be where he's lost out quite a bit. Kuharczyk taking the defensive line here in that silver car, trying to fend off the black and white car of James Headley with the green highlights, but it is still Jon Bennett leading in the JHR Developments car, the Mackey's Mobile, as it's been called by some of the coolest people on planet Earth, leading by half a second.
Yeah, great driving so far. Perfect example of how you do a safety car restart. We've got moves in the back of the field. That is the white highlighted car of Mackenzie Cresswell fighting with the two Arden VRDs of Noah Ping. Oh, that's close, and Mackenzie Cresswell takes two wheels onto the gravel. That's a robust move from Ping, but gets the job done, and now he's squeezing him. Ping, you can't move any more than that. That is hard racing, and we're still damp through here. Is there contact? Yeah, contact. That's clumsy, I'm afraid. That's clumsy.
Let's open up the door for Sean Rashid to work his way through and look at the Chris Dittman racing car as well. Coming past, I mean, like Nikita Johnson and the likes working their way past. Flynn Jackson's also in the mix. This is the defensive line though from Hugo Schwarzer for 5th position, straight around the outside. Will McIntyre's going to go at the first corner. Will McIntyre in the 21 in the silver car sends it straight around the outside of Hugo Schwarzer on his debut in the obviously a debut season for the pair of them in the championship. Two of our rookies this season, just showing exactly what the young talent in this championship can do. But you've got to remember, Will McIntyre is up there in the championship. He is second in the championship challenge, struggling at the moment in this race, but just trying to get whatever points he can. Look at Colin Queen though, straight into the mix. Vortec are flying.
Colin Queen is driving the race of his season so far at the very least, but also showing very well is Hugo Schwarzer, that yellow car that we're looking at. He was moved down a couple of positions at one point in the race, but it's just kept his nose clean, keeps on pushing. But it's Will McIntyre who's fighting back up after that wide moment he had in turn one just before the safety car. And we've had a car off. A Chris Dittman racing car is in the gravel. Where is that? The exit of turn 2. So that's likely to be another safety car, which will probably, unfortunately, be just like I'm just hearing in our ears, that is before the banking of turn 3. So turn 2, hopefully everyone's okay there, but that's likely to be a double waved yellow at the very least, potentially a safety car in a dangerous position. But we race until the safety car line, so we're on board, well I say on board, looking very closely at Colin Queen there in the red and white Vortec car, the number 62, who's right on the back of Hugo Schwarzer. Schwarzer hasn't quite got this pace at this stage of the race, but still a strong result from him, back where he started in 6th position.
No safety car called yet, so they are still racing, like you say. Until that safety car is called, they will just keep powering around the circuit as Hugo Schwarzer defends a bit of clean air there. He just tries to break the slipstream.
Seb Murray?
I think it is Seb Murray, yeah. He's just trying to break the slipstream of those behind. As you can see, Sebastian Murray's dropped down the timesheets. You're absolutely right, it was Sebastian Murray. Jon Bennett leads them by 3/4 of a second. On the timesheets, I've got this as the final lap of this race. There's only 30 seconds left to go. They won't have enough time to come round and complete another one after this. So I do believe this will be the last one. Jon Bennett leading by that 3/4 of a second, but it's still tight from all that behind.
Yeah, still very, very close. It's sort of somewhat settled down a little bit in the top 10. I think everyone's decided that there's been enough drama so far, but this is the man we're looking at, the number 11 JHR Developments driver, Jon Bennett. Double pole position, led the first half of the race. Safety car came out, eroded his gap. Brilliant safety car restart, has pulled away once again from our championship challenger. Mackenzie Cresswell's had a torrid race. He was driving so well, and unfortunately that contact he had with Noah Ping, which, having seen it only once, I would say that was Noah Ping leaning a little bit too hard. It was good racing through this section of a circuit, but then that second last corner, Ping just understeered into the side of Cresswell, so he'll feel hard done by. But hey, at the front of the field, Bennett, perfect race.
Yeah, indeed, and one final corner for him to navigate, and it'll be Jon Bennett working his way through to take yet another podium, sixth one of the season, but it is a second victory of 2024 and of his GB3 career for Jon Bennett, who dominates here at Circuit Zandvoort. Timo Kuharczyk in second position with James Headley behind, round out the podium. Louis Sharp down to 4th. Championship leaders, first and second in the championship, just 4th and 5th position on the road. Big margins to be taken in by Jon Bennett and Timo Kuharczyk, who sit 3rd and 4th in the championship. This title race just got closer.
Oh, I love it, Lewis. I love it. I love it. The championship's coming together. Brilliant driving, actually, from all of our championship rivals, because Sharp, at one point in the race, really didn't have the pace, and he started falling backwards, but somehow stemmed the flow, and the safety car actually kind of played into his hands a little bit there. McIntyre was pushing hard, doing some excellent overtakes around the outside, potentially just showing a little bit of a lack of experience in terms of a championship fight in this series, pushing a bit hard, going wide at turn 1. Kuharczyk effectively, I say did nothing in second. I was about to say did nothing in second place. Drove a very good race in second place. He's it's not at all. He kept his nose clean, didn't make any mistakes. So we've spoken a number of times this year. Kuharczyk, he wants to get the championship this year. Last year showed flashes of brilliance with some inconsistencies, and he's very aware that he needs to be more consistent, and has shown that so far this year with some good solid results and doing it once again. So, and James Headley, let's not take anything away from him. Leading road and car as effectively a second guest driver, and doing very well. Lewis, you're pointing out
it's
that James
his first podium of the season.
Oh, James
Headley, first podium in 2024.
He's not shy from a podium though. He's had race wins in this championship previously.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, remember when he was kind of jumping in a little bit last year. He did do the entirety of last year. This is the thing with James Headley. As much as there was the budget struggles of 2023, still was able to do every round of last year, and only missed the first round that he's missed in 3 years was the round a few weeks ago at Spa. But yeah, James Headley, like Piers said, has had a couple of victories even last year, and of course a first podium though of 2024 for James Headley, which is always fun to see. We do like a little bit of James Headley, and again, just fantastic to see him jumping into the road. He was really quick in the road and back in Hungaroring a few weeks back, of course, but didn't quite have the pace of the two ahead of him, despite showing some fantastic form in that one. But it is indeed a victory for that man there, Jon Bennett. He'll pull into top spot. James Headley's a good mate of his, so I'm assuming there's going to be at least a pretty solid hug between the pair of them, because again, a fantastic performance from the pair. But what a drive it was from Jon Bennett to have dominated that opening portion of the race, to have had pace which really no one could do anything about. Just super impressive to have kind of put on that display, and to have led that strongly. And then when the safety car came out, kept calm, did what he needed to do, and again got after it. And I will update you very quickly with the standings, because I know the top four at least. We'll have the championship standings after the podium and stuff. So if you're desperate there, but if you're going to jump off, and maybe you'll rejoin us tomorrow morning, the top four in the championship will now be separated by 18 points. Louis Sharp on 254, Will McIntyre on 250, Timo Kuharczyk on 241, Jon Bennett on 236. The gap for the championship lead has grown by 2 points, but the gap for the top four in the championship has closed significantly. Unfortunately, if you want further back from that, fifth place in the championship, Mackenzie Cresswell, obviously having a bit of a disaster in that race, so we'll be dropping back even further from that top lot. But for those top four in the championship, I think as we're entering the second half of the season, we're starting to see these championship protagonists rising to the fore and showing who is going to be competing for this crown in Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time. There is Jon Bennett fresh out of the car, and again an excellent drive and an excellent victory from Jon Bennett, who has won for the second time this year. Let's head down to Jon Jackson to catch up with them.
Yeah, we can see Jon Bennett celebrating with people watching him here. Loads of people were filming you as you came in there, John. It likes to flag victory for you. Exactly how you wanted to start your weekend?
Yeah, exactly. Dream start. One of the toughest races I've done, really. Like every lap, sometimes it was raining, sometimes it was dry. Like the rain kept going at different corners, so and going faster is never fun. Really happy with the result. Car was mega. I think to be honest, it was our most dominant win. I was never really under pressure. I think we opened up like a 3-second gap before the safety car. Really great to start the weekend like this.
Was the race as physical as you were expecting?
Sorry?
Was the race as physical as you were expecting?
It wasn't too bad, to be honest. I think because it was slightly damp, the cornering speeds were a bit less. So the most tiring thing was just weaving behind the safety car. Handled it well, and great result.
With that win, a second win of the season, you're really up there when it comes to the championship race. If you win the next race, if you're going to repeat this a little bit later on in the weekend, that's going to leave you in a pretty good position coming away from Zandvoort.
Well, that's the plan, to repeat this. I think we've done it in every condition now. Wet quali, that was dry, but not really. Whatever tomorrow brings, I think we'll be strong. And looking to repeat this and close that gap.
Congratulations, race winner Jon Bennett with JHR Developments. I'm just going to go and chat to Timo Kuharczyk with High-Tech Pulsate. Another podium for High-Tech Pulsate, another impressive performance from you, Timek. How did you find it out there?
Yeah, crazy race, with the changeable conditions and so on. It was super tricky to just stay on track, really, not talking about racing. But yeah, I think, again, decent points this race. We made the most out of it. I think the pace was really strong, so you're looking forward for race 2 already.
Anything you would do differently, or maybe anything you're hoping for set differently in the next race? Obviously, with the weather sort of changing quite a lot, maybe it's going to be a bit more consistent tomorrow. That would help you.
You know, I think we're both fast in both wet and dry, so it's all right. But yeah, I feel like I had a few options to maybe try chase that lead today. Didn't quite manage to, but you know, I'm happy to bring the car home safely because I've seen people going off here and there, which was quite easy to do, as you know. One part of the track was wet, another was dry, and so on. It rained like 3 times during the race, so yeah, really tricky, but yeah, happy to get that P2.
Well, look, more points, and Louis Sharp, who was obviously leading slightly in the championship race, finishing a little bit further back. So a good first result for you, and we'll wait to see what happens. And I know a lot of your fans are here as well. We'll hopefully catch up with them ahead of the race tomorrow.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
Timothy Kuharczyk there with Holtec Pulsate. We're just going to come around here and speak to someone with his first podium of the year. Wasn't actually going to be racing here. Come along, sir. James Headley, how are you feeling? Another podium for you?
Yeah, great result for the team, good points. It's not quite a win, but we didn't have the pace in quality, but it's the best we could have done today.
Look, when you're like not aware, you know, when you're not sure that you're racing on a weekend and then you are racing, it's very stop-start for you. Does that affect you when it comes to sort of knowing what you're doing next?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it doesn't help in one respect, you know, it puts a lot of pressure on me, but for 2 it also helps to deliver, you know, every time recently I've always managed to pull something out of the bag for quality, because I know I've got an important weekend, you know, especially for next season. A lot of people are going to be watching me. And yeah, as I said, this is my last race weekend. I know you've seen me quite a lot, but believe me, I'm not bluffing. I know it's like, you know, the dog that cried wolf, whatever you call it, but yeah, just so thankful to my sponsors for everyone getting me here. And we just got to keep delivering results, and then we can keep doing this.
I think it shows how highly you're valued, that when one of the top teams needs a good driver, you're the first person they call.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice, and that's some kudos from last year, because obviously the goal was to win the championship. We still did really well, so yeah, it's great. I'm so happy for Jon's man. We finally got a Spiff podium, we like to call it. We thought it'd be cursed, like we'd never been on the podium together, and finally we got it done. So last weekend that we could have done it, we did it. So yeah, cut it short. But
well, I'll let you go and celebrate with your good friend Jon Bennett. James Headley with Rodin Motorsport now. They're going to go over to the podium. Lewis McGlade will talk you through all of the standings, and we'll get some highlights as well.
We'll take a look at highlights then from round 13 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. It was Jon Bennett starting from pole position and leading from pole position over Timothy Kuharczyk down into the first corner. It wasn't so much of a comfortable lead though, as all the battling was happening behind, with Louis Sharp trying to fend off James Headley as they would be working their way through the first corner. But Jon Bennett would have the whole shot and would lead up towards turn 2. Plenty of battling behind as Mackenzie Cresswell was working his way up the order straight around the outside of Louis Sharp, as Noah Ping would go wide at the penultimate corner before rejoining the race circuit a few positions lower than when he went off. An unfortunate retirement for the JHR Developments driver in the Hard Rock Cocktails, of course, car of Patrick Hoytenroder, that had been off and into the barrier. Unfortunately, the car looked okay. It caused a safety car, and once we got back racing, Jon Bennett was feeling the pressure, but an excellent restart from him would see him pulling away from Kuharczyk again. Meanwhile, Louis Sharp had got stuck behind a back marker of Ed Pearson and was having the pressure of Hugo Schwartz to try to work his way past. Colin Queen trying to slot the gap behind to try and get himself up inside the top 5. Was unable to do so, with Mackenzie Cresswell and Noah Ping making contact with the penultimate corner. It would be an unfortunate retirement from Mackenzie Cresswell to have to return to pit lane to repair the damage. Sebastian Murray would be into the barrier at turn 2 late on in the race. It wouldn't require a safety car, but was an unfortunate retirement from him. Jon Bennett would come down towards the line to take his second victory of the season, ahead of Kuharczyk and James Headley. An absolutely brilliant performance then from Jon Bennett, who just looked comfortable at the front of the field once more as he was able to pull out some fairly large margins. Of course, drivers-wise in the championship, it is a big moment from them for the likes of Jon Bennett to close their way in, to pull it down gaps-wise now. So it's only 18 points off of the championship lead. I will at least talk you through the results from the race, of course, because again, it was a superb performance from Jon Bennett to have taken that victory, as he was comfortably able to take it by a second or so over Timothy Kuharczyk. James Headley in third position, with Louis Sharp in fourth, then Will McIntyre in fifth position, Hugo Schwartzer in sixth, Colin Queen in seventh, with Sean Rashid, Nikita Johnson and Jared Wilburski rounding out the top 10. Gerard Shee, then Flynn Jacks, Arthur Rojon, Adichie Kulkarni, Josh Irvin and Noah Ping the finishers, with, of course, Mackenzie Cresswell retiring from the race, and Pearson being a lap down. Sebastian Murray and Patrick Huysenroder. With all that waffling done, though, it's time to have a little look at the podium, which we're not doing on the steps of the podium. We're doing it inside the garage because it's wet and miserable and very windy outside, but it's still the same trophies and still the same drivers as well. Quote of the weekend, I think, goes to James Headley. The dog who cried wolf or sank, which is what he said. Obviously, he means the boy who cried wolf, but that's fine. But he will be taking his first podium of the season, and that one being the third place and taking the trophy of it. Team Kuharczyk, of course, to second position, and of course doing good, solid things when it comes to the championship. Of course, closing down that margin to the top two. John Bennett, though, onto the top step. Of course, Louis Sharp will lead the championship by just 4 points. Team Kuharczyk will be closing in. He's now 13 points off the championship lead. John Bennett is now 18 points off of the championship lead. And like you say, looking very strong indeed. That'll be a very well-deserved victory, but they've got to do it again tomorrow because John Bennett will be starting from pole position once again tomorrow. Team Kuharczyk will be starting alongside him on the front row, and I'm pretty sure will be hungry to make sure that the same result doesn't quite happen again. So, again, the expectations are that things are going to get a little bit tricky. We'll take a look, though, at, again, very provisional standings after round 13 of the championship. Of course, the first half of the season done now. Louis Sharp leading the championship on 254 points. Will McIntyre in second position on 250, just 4 points back. 13 points back is Team Kuharczyk, and then John Bennett in fourth. Those are really your title protagonists. Mackenzie Cresswell with that unfortunate race. Jared Oberski with a couple of struggles himself. Ugu Chukwu hasn't been in the championship for a couple of rounds, still hangs on to seventh in the standings with Gerard Chi, Arthur Rojon, and Hugo Schwarzer, who's got some great pace this weekend. So watch out for the Elite Motorsports driver there at the back end of the top 10 to maybe do some damage to those further ahead of him and potentially working his way back into the order. The expectations are, though, that the top four of the championship, that's probably not going to last all the way to the final part of the season. Having a four-driver showdown, we had a three-driver showdown last year. But having a four-driver showdown at the end of the season, I don't quite see it. Someone's going to drop out of it, though. Just as to which one it's going to be, though, we just simply do not know. Louis Sharp, Will McIntyre, Team Kuharczyk, John Bennett, the top four in the standings, all separated by very, very little as we prepare for the final parts of this championship. Of course, you're probably bored of hearing me talking. You want to see what's happening down in the paddock area and see what's down in pit lane, because Jon Jackson and Piers are standing by.
Thank you very much, Lewis. We're here with Colin Queen from Fortec. How was that race for you, Colin?
It was good. It was good. Finished 7th, I think, in the end. Starting from 14th. It was, not where we wanted to start, obviously. Qualifying was on for a good one, but just didn't piece it together. We definitely had the pace to be up front in that quality. But, yeah, that race, it was really just a matter of survival. And, I think that's what I did really well. The car really came to me and was able to put, a couple purple sectors together and in the rain. So it was definitely good. A bit bittersweet though, because I had a lockup into turn 10 and allowed Will by me, and could have been past Schwartz back into turn 1, so it's all right. Could have finished 5th, but I'll settle for 7th in the end after that.
It looked great. It looked like some seriously tricky conditions out there, yeah. Colin, because from what we could see, it looked like one corner was wet, and the next one was dry, and then it would wet again, then the next lap it would swap over. It must be so hard for you to go into a corner knowing how much grip there was going to be.
It is. It definitely had a couple moments, but yeah, I think I just got a bit lucky with how I with my intention,
positioning,
my intention going into the corners when it was raining. So it paid off really well.
Yeah.
It was just a good race for us. Fortec, we've worked on the car all throughout this weekend. We got in a good shape. We know we're quick, especially around here. We were last year. I think it's going to be dry tomorrow, so we'll see what happens.
Same again?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much, Colin. Colin Queen with Fortec Motorsports. I don't know if you can hear that because there's some incredibly loud cars going past. I know you want to chat with Hugo Schwarzer, who we spoke to earlier, so I'm going to let you run along and get him now.
Yeah, of course. Hugo Schwarzer had a great race in that one. His strongest qualifying of the year so far, up in 6th place. We saw him up and down the grid, so it'd be great to grab a word with him before he runs away. Hugo, of course, a new driver to the championship this season with Elite Motorsports, and we chatted with you just before the race, earlier on today. Strongest qualifying, and now your strongest race.
Yeah, feels good to be in P6 here. Very difficult race. Yeah, lots of cars going off in front of me. Just staying out of trouble, and that's it in that race. Yeah.
Well, it looked like that was exactly it, because I think, I don't know if I'm being unfair, but at a certain stage of the race, you didn't quite have the pace of the drivers around you, but they would come past and they'd go off.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't going at the pace that they were, just because I didn't want to go off. Yeah, in those races, it's important to stay on track, get the points, and yeah.
Brilliant, and that's, I suppose, you're getting more and more confidence with every race and every round. We've seen you build every single round we've done this year. You've got better and better. So where can you go from here?
Yeah, so this is a track I haven't been at, and I've shown good pace. So I'm sure that when we go to Silverstone, go back to Silverstone, and the other UK circuits, I'll be on the pace right away.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. 2 more races to come this weekend. Good luck in those.
Thank you very much.
Right, that's great to hear from Hugo Schwartz. So where's Jon? I've lost him. Where is he? Jon, oh, there he is.
Hello.
Jon, come on
Hello.
in.
Sorry. Anton Deck got me on the right side. Sorry, I was trying to find Jared Waberski actually, because we know he had a really good race, and obviously Hugo's teammate, but I couldn't find him. So I think we'll find Jared before the next race. So we'll go and chat to him now, and you'll see it before the first race tomorrow. It was kind of a shame that we had the safety car there, but when you have a wet track, a safety car is not exactly an anomaly, is it?
I had no idea what you just said. The cars are so loud.
I said, when you have a wet track, a safety car isn't really much of an anomaly, is it?
No, we were, to be fair, as I mentioned on the commentary.
I can't hear you now, but carry on.
They did well to go 7 laps without a safety car, to be honest, with the changeable conditions. Great driving for a lot of the drivers. Only a few small mistakes here and there, and just Patrick Hoytson-Roeder that came off really and wasn't able to continue. But the championship is still going strong in terms of it coming together. Great drives from all the top 3 drivers, and also some great stories in terms of Hugo Schwartz and Colin Queen. So looking forward to the rest of the racing this weekend.
I have no idea what he just said, but I'm sure it's very insightful. I know you're looking forward to the next race. The next race is coming up tomorrow morning. Check out the GB3 social media to find out when that race is. We'll also have some driver interviews from the paddock after that first race. And of course we have GB4 coming up a little bit later on today. So if you want to see the feeder series into GB3, the first race of the weekend at Snetterton in GB4 is coming up. You can watch that in the UK. I mean, time zones, not my strong point. You know what? Look at the GB4 social media page. It's probably the best place for you. I can hear you now. Anything else to say?
No, I think let's look forward to some more good racing.
All right, good. 4:45 in the UK is what I'm being told. GB4, and we'll be back for 2 more races tomorrow here in the GB3 Championship here at Zandvoort.